Hello, welcome to Internet TCI, our monthly program where we explore the global internet. My name is Rich Wiggins, and as always, I'd like to introduce my partner in crime, Chuck Severance.
Thanks, Rich. This is show number 8 for us, and I think we're going to have a good show this time. We're going to, in Internet for Everyone, Rich is going to talk about authoring tools and creating web documents using some nifty new things, Netscape Gold and other stuff. On Chuck and Rich on the Road, Rich goes on the road and both interviews a person from Real Audio that does audio over the Internet, as well as listens to some real audio over the Internet. It's a real neat piece. In Tech Talk, we're going to talk about the dial-up features in Windows 95 networking. And we have a new segment called Internet Cafe. We have a new person on the show, and we're going to have a remote at that cafe, and we're really looking forward to that. So I think we're going to have a really great show. So, Rich, tell me some of your favorites. Tell me your hot one site for the last month or so.
Out of the 20 million sites on the global internet,
bring it down to one.
I have to pick one.
Exactly one.
Okay, well, I want to talk about a couple of related pages on the net. I wrote an article for Internet World Magazine in their best and worst issue. They have an annual issue where they have their authors just sort of recap the favorite and least favorite things that they found on the net, not always just web pages. And so if we can look at what we have on the screen here, I don't have my physical copy of Internet World with me, but they have an archive on the web. So we're looking at the Internet World Magazine back issues web page. Here's the best and worst of 1995.
Are you in this?
Well, I think I am.
Which?
Which, it's my summary along with some other authors of what each of us thought was best and worst.
Oh, I thought you were either going to be the best or the worst.
No, I am the judge, not the competitor in this particular
You're not the plaintiff.
Not in this particular beauty contest. So we're going through here and we're reading some of the things that I thought were interesting. And you see here that I talk about something called Babes on the Web, and I call it the best example of self-promotion through creative labeling. Now, I'm not really saying that this is the best page on the World Wide Web. I'm saying what this guy is doing is an excellent example of self-promotion.
Just throwing some words in there that are going to get people excited.
He's put a page online whose very name, Babes on the Web, is going to cause a lot of people to get excited and go look at it, thinking perhaps they're going to find, you know, scantily clad women or something, or who knows. Okay, so that's what I said about it. Now, let's go off to the official Babes on the Web page itself out there on the net.
I might say I have looked at this, not recently, but
strictly for scientific reasons.
No, but it really just is about female pages. There's nothing.
It's just a catalog of female pages,
yeah.
and that's it. And you know, you might be a scientist of some sort.
Right. College students, scientists, nothing.
Or even a librarian.
Right.
It's just astonishing. Yeah. Now look here, selected as best of 1995 in Internet World. Well, it wasn't selected by Internet World Magazine. It was just mentioned by me, and I didn't call his page the best of 1995, right?
Right.
So I sent him some email, and I said, Dear Mr. Toops, or Toopsy, or whatever he calls himself, please understand this subtle distinction. And he said, oh, okay, well, I see the point that you're making, but after all, you did give me a lot of credit for my self-promotion, right? And since I'm so good at self-promoting, obviously what I did here was just another little twist on that.
Ooh, I like the guy.
I
like that.
You like him already, huh?
Yes. I want to grow up just like him someday.
Well, now let's go and look at the source, the HTML source for this document. And let's page through here.
Wait. I'm reading here. It says, TV shows are talking about babes on the web. Now, isn't that kind of like, now we're a TV show and talking about it, so he's one of the most talked about ones.
Let's be clear what we're looking at here.
Oh, okay.
Most people aren't going to look at the source of an HTML document like this, right? They're only going to look at the document on screen.
Right.
You have to say view source. He's put in comments all sorts of stuff, keywords to get indexers to put it in so you'll find them in Lycos.
Political, postmodern, industrial, satirical, reconstructionist, naked in Wired, Albatross.
He had a picture of himself naked in Wired magazine.
Oh, okay.
So we scroll on down here. Sorry about that Bill Gates, because a font that he has in here doesn't work in Internet Explorer. I mean, he's just got all kinds of internal editorial remarks in here.
So this guy is one of those people that paint a target on them or wear a T-shirt with a target on them and just walk around.
But now we look here. Richard Wiggins sent me email and explained to me that I was not voted but selected as best of 1995. He said it was a fine line. Nice guy, though.
You know, I'd have to agree with all that, except that last part. You know, I'd have to agree with that whole point.
So it's nice to know that he's willing to listen to his critics, and he's willing to listen to his refinements from his critics, and even put them in a buried location in the source code, where maybe 12 out of the 20,000 people who see this page every day will actually take a look at it.
That's quite a bit of net sleuthing as compared to net surfing that you did to come up with that.
Well, no, see, he is continuing to correspond with me. I stopped talking to him a long time ago, but he keeps giving me updates on airplane trips he takes and all kinds of stuff.
That's good to know. Does he have a television show by any
it's
chance?
Very straight. He may soon.
Oh, okay. Well, my internet experience that I had this week, this last month or so, that was kind of interesting. It takes a little bit of study. I have to do a little bit of showing you how things work here. And then I'm going to go back to the computer and show you what I did. Now, I play on a hockey team, senior, grown-up, old people hockey team. And here's my jersey at Bettman's Drillers. We have a dentist as the sponsor of our team. So I play hockey on this Bettman's Driller team and have a good time. And we were playing a week ago, and there was this guy. His name is Joey. I won't use his last name for his own safety. He was coming down the rink about the red line, and I was coming up, and I took the puck right away from him, sort of like that. I took the puck away, and he was a little bit upset at this, and he stuck his stick under my knee, and I went sort of up and came down right on my single knee. My whole weight came down on my flex knee, and here's my actual knee pad as a result of this, okay? It broke my knee pad. I hit so hard.
Now, Chuck, this story will have something to do with the internet at some point.
Yeah, I know. You always complain that nothing of the stuff I ever do has anything to do with the internet, but this does have something to do with the internet. Of course, I'm in terrible pain as a result of here. I skate the rest of the night, but what I'm curious about is I'm saying, do I have a broken knee? You know, do I have something that's going to mess up and get worse and worse and worse? Okay? So what I did was I went onto the net and I searched for sports medicine. Okay? And I found there was this Dr. Stuart Zeman, Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery. So here I go, and I start looking around, and if you page down on his page, oops, if you page down on his page, it'll take a second.
So you want to be a doctor? That's cute.
Well, he wrote this. This is a book he wrote, so you want to be a doctor. You can tell this guy's a bit off the wall.
Yes, I would say so.
Let's see. Ask Dr. Z. Okay. What you do? See if this one's come back yet. No, that one's not come back yet. Well, I found out what you can do is you can email him a question on the net, and you have to pay him $10, and you've got to use your Visa card. So what I did is I've never bought anything over the net. My Visa card has never gone across the net. The problem was I was in pain, and I wanted to play more hockey, but I was kind of too lazy to go to the doctor because I didn't know if it really was hurt or not. So I sent this Dr. Z my name, my address, and all this stuff, and I gave him my Visa card, and I thought, oh boy, if I'm going to get ripped off, I'm going to get ripped off. There, put in my Visa card. So I sent him a mail message, and lo and behold, he answered. It turned out I sent it on a Friday night, and for $10 I had medical advice by Saturday morning.
Wow.
Like us, this person obviously goes and hacks late at night. And so I got this. He said, you don't have a broken knee. Believe me, if you had a broken knee, you'd be in the hospital right now. So that was pretty much the medical advice I needed. So I thought that was really neat, the fact that I just solved my problem of a sore knee rather than going to the doctor, going to the internet. So what do you think?
That's pretty impressive, Chuck. Although I think for $10 I could have told you you don't have a broken knee too.
Right, yeah, I was just a little bit nervous. That's why I was willing to only pay $10 and then sort of believe it when it was all said and done.
Oh, I see.
So what else do you have for us?
Well, there's a couple more things I want to talk about. Yesterday I was off in Cleveland where I was doing some training in HTML authoring, teaching a bunch of librarians about that. And afterwards, if you've gone to Cleveland for a 4-hour training session, you got to do something else. You got to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
And that was an interesting experience going there, although it occurred to me while I was there that so much of what they have is in the form of interactive laser discs, that you could take a lot of that stuff and put it on the web.
Right.
Now, there are financial reasons why they're not going to do that, because they want you to come and visit the physical site. There are other reasons why you would want to visit the site, because, you know, you're standing there looking at one of Elvis's original costumes, or, for instance, they have actual equipment that was used in the Sun studio, from, you know, like a mixing board from 1933. I think it's very similar to the equipment that Amy's working with in the other room right now, I'm not sure. But one of the themes that they have there is, when you first get your ticket, is now that you're here, you see a little thing on the map that says, "Now get lost." And it occurs to me, you know, that's an appropriate theme for the web, is we're going to let you loose on this huge universe of information, and, you know, get lost, but get lost in a good way. Have fun with what you're doing. Last month I was off in Boston for the 4th Annual World Wide Web Conference, and I had the opportunity to talk to the inventor of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, and I asked him a little bit about where are we going with this web stuff. And we have just a little bit of footage from Tim telling us where that's going to be.
You didn't see nothing yet, but you wait until people assume the web. When the web becomes something you can assume, when the infrastructure is all laid down, and we have an information space, then it will be time for the next revolution, and who knows what that will be.
It's hard to imagine a greater revolution than what we've seen. I mean, I go to the smallest places and everybody's putting up a web page.
Right, but the web could only take place, the web revolution could only take place because the internet, which had been a quieter, smaller revolution, but that had been the internet itself quietly being deployed throughout the world, had happened because the internet was something people could assume the web revolution could take place. When the web is something you can assume, then maybe a cultural revolution, a nicer cultural revolution than the cultural revolution, perhaps, or maybe we'll find ways of doing things better that we hadn't imagined.
Pretty neat, Rich. One of the things that I liked about it was he just said his idea was the next step is something completely different, a cultural revolution as compared to just a little more technology. And Tim Berners-Lee being from Europe, I can sort of see how he could have that perspective that it's going to change our culture.
Well, I guess we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years or even in 2, but let's find out what's going to happen in the rest of the show.
Good job. In our Internet for Everyone segment tonight, Rich is going to talk to us about authoring tools. These, I believe, are going to become more and more important as people are going to want to produce web documents more and more quickly with less and less effort. So, Rich, tell us what some of our authoring options are.
Okay, Chuck. Well, traditionally, when somebody's preparing a document for delivery on the World Wide Web, sort of the macho way of doing things is to fire up your old trustworthy text editor, maybe one that you're signaling approval here.
VI.
VI, for instance. Maybe one where you have to type a whole bunch of little commands that only a few nerds in the world are going to know, and so forth. But as time goes on, we're getting more and more sophisticated tools that allow us to take a what you see is what you get kind of a view of editing. And in tonight's Internet for Everyone segment, we want to talk a little bit about first an overview of what's involved in HTML authoring to begin with, and then some of the tools that are coming around. So our goal is to prepare a document in the hypertext markup language, and that document's going to be delivered by a web server somewhere on the global internet. As we said, the traditional method has been to do it by hand using some sort of a simple text editor or maybe a word processing package like Microsoft Word. The newer method that a lot of people are getting into is to use a dedicated HTML editor or what's otherwise referred to as an authoring tool in order to assist in the process. Let's review some nomenclature here. When we're preparing documents for delivery on the web, we're going to prepare them in the hypertext markup language. They're physically going to be put on a server somewhere on the internet, residing on disk space somewhere within the document hierarchy on that server. They will be delivered over the internet according to the rules of the hypertext transfer protocol. And then our web browser on the user's desktop is going to interpret the HTML and make things look pretty on screen. Now let's look for an example here at the home page for an organization called marketplace.com. This is a fairly conventional example of a home page. It's got a title, it's got hyperlinks that show up in blue, it's got some items in bold, and it's got an inline image. Here we're looking at a little bit of the HTML that goes into producing that page. And for instance, the marketplace.com headline appears within H1 tags, H1 and slash H1, and then within a center tag, center and slash center. Similarly, we have a way to refer to hyperlinks, so we have some syntax to provide for that, and then we have a way to refer to inline images. Now when we weave all of this together, an HTML document might look like this, and I have gone through and I've shown in yellow all the HTML tags that are part of the document. What shows in white is what's left over. It's the text that we might actually type in. All of these tags woven together make up a document. Now it's not really always sort of a doable task for somebody to memorize all of the elements of HTML and keep them in mind. People are more used to using word processors, and for instance, when you want something to show up as bold, you would rather highlight it using your windowing tools and perhaps hit Control B, and as you would do in a lot of word processors, rather than wrapping things in tags by hand. A few more of the tags that you'll deal with in HTML. Here are the different heading tags, level 1, 2, and 3. Here's how you mark paragraph boundaries. And here the rules of HTML are a little bit different than what one might expect. The P tag is a separator. It's not really a wrapper like some of the other tags. So you mark sort of the end of each paragraph with a P tag. And you have ways with syntax that you can have lists. Well, this is a little bit confusing to remember. The unordered list syntax, you have a UL and then a slash UL and some LI entries for each bulleted item. A little bit hard to remember. Now there are also some fancier things that you can do on the World Wide Web, some fancy features in HTML, and here's an example of what's called an image map. This happens to be a piece of work in progress that somebody on my staff is working on. It's for the local bus system in Lansing. The idea is you'll be able to click on any one of these little spots and you'll get the route information for that spot. Well, here's a little snippet of the HTML that would be involved in delivering this image map, and it says, well, if you click within this rectangle, this is the route information I want you to deliver. Once again, this may not be something that mere mortal human beings are going to carry around in their head as sort of a conventional way of doing things. Forms are another popular kind of endeavor to get into on the web. You want to have people fill out a form, and here we have somebody named Charles Windsor who wants to send some flowers to somebody named Di. And with forms processing, once again, you have a syntax for the specification of a form that may not be all that friendly. So these authoring tools are coming along that'll help us do all of this. One of the earliest tools was one called HTML Assistant Pro, which is something that came out for Windows a couple of years ago. Another tool called Hot Metal is from a company called SoftQuad, and one feature of this tool is that it will enforce the rules of HTML for you. When you're using the manual editing way of preparing your HTML documents and using your browser to check out the documents and make sure they look okay, you really run a risk of having some mistakes in your HTML that you never in fact uncover. And a tool like Hot Metal will help you find the mistakes in your programs. Adobe Corporation has put out a tool called PageMill, which is out for the Macintosh environment now and will soon be out for Windows. And that's a very nice what you see is what you get kind of an editor. In Microsoft Word, you can use Microsoft's Internet Assistant, which is an add-on that's freely available, or there's a commercial product from Quarterdeck called WebAuthor, another add-on for Microsoft Word. There's a very nice add-on for WordPerfect, and it's also freely available, and it makes HTML editing very easy. And there are a lot of other translators out there. Here's an example of what HTML Assistant Pro might look like. For instance, if you wanted the word Benjamin Franklin to appear in bold, you would use your Windows tools to simply highlight that and go up here and click B. Here's what Adobe's PageMill might look like. Here we have some radio buttons, and those are options where one can click one of two or more options. And there's very simple little buttons up on the toolbar that will allow you to create the HTML tags that you need without ever typing them in. When you've done that, you'll end up with HTML code that looks like this. Once again, this is probably more complicated than most folks would like to deal with by hand, and the authoring tool can really help you out. WordPerfect has especially nice support for tables. There's a simple little button that you go up to and you drag down for the size table you want. You type the information you want in straight into the cells of the table, and then you say save as HTML, and HTML code comes out the other end. Now, if you did that by hand, you'd be typing a bunch of stuff like this. Once again, I think you can agree you don't want to type all these TRs and TDs and so forth. Even your web browser is going to become an authoring tool. The Netscape Navigator Gold product now has editing capabilities built into it. So while you're browsing, you can go through and find a page and then say, well, you know, I want to make a page like that. And you say, fire up the editor for me, and you have a toolbar with all kinds of options. You can even, for instance, say, I want this text to appear in color. By clicking up here, you'll get a little color map, and you can pick the colors you want to have it invoke. So these tools are going to make it a lot easier over the long haul for us to prepare our documents for delivery on the World Wide Web.
That was a really neat presentation, Rich. One thing that I want to add to that is I myself use the Microsoft Internet Assistant for Windows 95. And the thing that I like about it is that you can simply cut and paste. You're using the standard cut and paste. You can cut a PowerPoint graphic, you can cut a Microsoft Excel chart, and you just drag them into a Microsoft Word document, and then you say save as HTML, and it actually automatically resizes things and converts them to GIFs all in the same directory and creates the HTML suitable directly for being put up on the server. And the neat thing about that is if your original document stays in Microsoft Word and you want to change, say, PowerPoint, you click on it in Microsoft Word, which will then bring up PowerPoint, which will then automatically save it all back out. So I am you joked about using an old editor. I myself use VI, probably one of the oldest editors, at least full-screen editors, that there is. And I did much of my HTML by hand. But I think that something like Internet Assistant has so many features that I find it really convenient to use myself.
It's all going to get easier.
Yep. In tonight's On the Road segment, Rich visits with the Vice President for Sales for the Real Audio Corporation. So Rich, tell us a little bit about this segment.
Okay, Chuck. James Wells, the Vice President of the company, which is actually called Progressive Networks, that company markets a product called Real Audio, which is a very popular way of delivering audio on demand on the Internet. And he gave a demonstration of the 2.0 release of that product down in Ann Arbor. And I learned a lot about where they're going with that software, and afterwards sat down and interviewed him. Now, before we hear from Mr. Wells, as usual, we always hand out a little present, one to the other. I was on a different trip down at the American Library Association meeting recently, and in one of the booths, they gave out a CD, and this CD, it's not AudioNet, it's AutoNet.
Okay.
And this is everything you'd want to know about every car that's out on the market today.
Now, I think these guys have a web page too.
They may have a web page, and I asked them about that. I said, why don't you sell this information on the World Wide Web? And they said, oh no, we got no good way to charge for that. And I said, oh sure, there's First Virtual and other ways. And they said, no, we figured out how to charge for CDs. We haven't figured out how to sell this information on the Internet yet.
Well, they better figure it out.
So, well, yeah, sometime soon.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. So let's hear a little bit more about Real Audio.
Okay.
The web is basically a silent movie. Now, voice has been available, audio has been available on the web as downloadable files for some point in time, but there's a real issue with this problem with that. If, for example, you have a 5-minute segment that you want to listen to, it takes 25 minutes, the 14.4 modem, to download that segment. That's before you even know whether you want to listen to it or not. So what if you could take that segment and in, say, 2 or 3 seconds be listening to the real audio on demand at the place that you want to listen. So what we're bringing to the party is what's called streaming media, the ability to listen while you download in such a way that you get a reliable signal and meaningful content.
Hi, Chuck. Greetings from Alabama. We're going to see if we can listen to the MSU football game as carried over Real Audio through the services of AudioNet. Let's see what happens. It's launching the Real Audio player. This is over a 14.4 modem. And let's see what happens.
3rd and 6, 20-17, Michigan State. This is the Michigan State Radio Network.
It works.
Well, it's really very easy. First of all, you have to be connected to the internet. Okay? When you're connected to the internet, you go to our homepage, www.realaudio.com, and you simply download the player. And Well, we distribute the player, which is the client part of our software package, free of charge for downloading it over the internet. We'll ask you who you are. You tell us who you are. We'll download it. You put it into your you do an install. It installs, and it uses the web browser as its navigational device. So it installs as a helper application to the web browser. Then you go to a site that has real audio content. You simply click on the content, and it plays. It's as simple as that. Well, there are two steps in providing information. One step is authoring the information. It is capturing the content, capturing the audio, then taking that audio and creating the proper format so that it can be served. And that's done with a piece of software that runs on a Mac or a PC or a Unix machine, which is called an encoder. An encoder is the thing that we also distribute widely. The business end that serves the audio content is called a server. And that's the thing that we make a business about. That's the thing that we sell. And we sell that to people who concentrate value, people who distribute media. We now have 7,000 or 8,000 people who have in the past couple of weeks downloaded the personal server. We have many large companies who have purchased the industrial strength server, and we have over 700,000 people who have downloaded the player in the last 6 months at a rate of about 250,000 a month. So if you just do the arithmetic, you would imagine that over the next 6 months there would be many millions of people listening and tens of thousands of people producing. It allows the idea of what we call narrowcasting. That is to take information in a very inexpensive way and get it to very specific points of interest and targets. Another large user of real audio is education. You know, distance learning, the ability to provide a learning environment over time and over space. At Michigan State, there's a great application on the library. It's a voice library. It's called the Vincent Voice Library, the largest in the country. What a great application to have very famous audio available on demand and indexed so that you can get it when you need it. People including Oklahoma, Michigan State, SMU, and a number of schools are using real audio to broadcast football games on Saturday afternoon. You can get the NBA on real audio. You'll be able to get college football on real audio. So that if you are a Michigan State grad and you live in Florida, you can follow the sports. One of the great stories that we have is University of Oregon did the first sports broadcast over the internet and got a great email from 2 of their grads in Singapore who could only get one other sporting event during the year, and that was the Super Bowl. And now they can get all of the Oregon games. And so this is a big boost to sports.
Starts in motion right. Tony Banks hands to Scotty Green. Scotty Green looking for the end zone. Touchdown, Michigan State.
I tell you, that's pretty neat. You know, and you can sense the excitement even over a 14.4 modem. And if you look, you can see the little lights blinking, and that is actually the data that's being transferred back and forth. It just amazes me how much information they can get over a 14.4 modem. Is the quality of that, I was told, is about like AM radio. Is that the best quality they're ever going to see over that modem?
No, as a matter of fact, the 2.0 release, which Mr. Wells talked about, is now available, has what they claim to be approaching CD quality.
Neat.
And
I have another question for you. You and your staff participated in the creation of that particular broadcast. Tell us a little bit about what it takes for a university to put a football game on.
Okay. There's a company called AudioNet, and AudioNet relicenses the Real Audio software for, in particular, college sporting activity, but also some other interesting things like radio stations on the internet. And a student who works in my group by the name of Trevor Barnes found out about AudioNet early on and signed Michigan State up. We were the first Big Ten school to put up a football game on the net, and the first school or any institution anywhere to put up a hockey game over the internet. And so it's been real exciting. We've gotten a lot of feedback, including some email from an MSU alum in Japan who got up at 6:30 in the morning to listen to the Michigan game. And so there he is in Tokyo, listening, looking at a modem like we were just doing down in Alabama, and cheering the Spartans on from across the planet.
That's a great story, much like his story about the Oregon alums in the Orient as well. That's really neat.
Today's Tech Talk segment, Chuck is going to tell us a little bit about networking and dial-up networking under Windows 95.
Thanks, Rich. You know, a couple shows back, I just went crazy about Windows 95, and the thing I really like about Windows 95 is it does TCP/IP over both dial-up and over a local area network connection with built-in software right from Microsoft. And what I'm going to do is take a little bit of time on this show and actually walk through some of the settings that a person has to do and the software that they have to install to do the dial-up networking. So, the first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that the TCP/IP software is installed. And to do that, you go to your control panel, and you do your basic installation. Of course, if you're a Windows 95 person, this is all very familiar to you. If you're a Macintosh person, this is also all very familiar to you. It sort of looks about the same. So now I'm at the point where I can add and remove programs and set the properties, and I'm going to install some additional Windows software. So I'm going to say Windows Setup, and what this does is pulls up all the different components that make Microsoft Windows. The parts that I'm going to be interested in here is communication. So I'll click once on Communications, highlight it, and then I'll go to Details, and I'll make sure that I have the right piece of software installed. Okay, so now I have dial-up networking, and the little checkbox in this situation means that it's already installed, so we're in good shape. Okay, now if this wasn't installed, you'd check it, and then it would prompt you for floppy disks and read off the floppies and put the right software in. Okay, so that's the first step, is making sure that you have basic dial-up networking in there. The next thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that you have the TCP/IP protocol. Let's go cancel here. Okay, and to do that, we're going to go into the network. So we're going to click on the network. The little thing looks like a network. Okay, now this is already done. Okay, well let's do this. We'll delete it. This is Rich's computer, by the way. This is Rich's home computer that we happen to be using today. So we'll delete it. So if you didn't have it, this is what you'd be looking for. Okay, we don't have TCP/IP connected to the dial-up adapter. So we're going to. Oh, we already have the adapter. The dial-up adapter already exists. If you wanted to add the dial-up adapter, you go here and you go to Adapter, and you'd say Add. And then what you're doing is you actually, interestingly, you go down and look, you see all these adapters from these different companies, and you go to the one called Microsoft. And this is the Microsoft dial-up adapter. Okay, so you install the adapter. Oops. Yeah, I already got one. I knew that. I really did know that. So after you've installed the adapter, this little line here is what shows up. And so now you have a dial-up adapter. And that actually connects to the hardware that you have, the modem that you have. The next thing we have to add is we have to add the TCP/IP protocol. So now we're going to add a protocol and associate that with the adapter. So we'll say Add, and we cruise down, and again you have all the common network protocol. You got Banyan and Digital Equipment, IBM, and then voila, you have Microsoft. This sort of means it came with Microsoft, and you say I would like to add TCP/IP. Okay. Okay. So now I've added TCP/IP to the dial-up adapter. Okay. So now what I have to do is I actually have to change the properties of the TCP/IP dial-up adapter. So now I've selected it, and I'm going to go over to Properties. And here is the basic TCP/IP properties. Now I remember doing this stuff in Microsoft Windows or even DOS before, and this was a painful, painful process. Now all I'm doing is clicking on a few things and typing in a few numbers. this TCP/IP properties is the key thing that sort of sets up how everything is going to work. We're going to aim at a PPP connection, or point-to-point protocol. And the first thing about the PPP connection is, as part of the PPP protocol, it obtains an IP address automatically. I hope you're dealing with PPP and you don't have to specify an IP address. The next thing that you do have to specify is what's called the DNS configuration, or domain name system configuration. What the DNS system is, this is how it maps host names like www.msu.edu into the actual numeric IP addresses. And so this is something that you have to get from your internet provider. So here at Michigan State University, our standard one is 358241. Most everything else you can do by name, but this is the one thing that you have to do by IP address. And so that's why it's so important, but because it has to use this IP address to look up the other names. And so this one's already properly configured. WINS configuration, that would be if you're going to do Microsoft networking over TCP/IP. Advanced, I never know what to do there. I'm not an advanced user. Gateway, unnecessary. It's automatic as part of PPP. And the bindings, that would be to allow other protocols to talk to this. So now we have our basic TCP/IP already set up. Now at this point, what would probably happen is your computer would probably have to be rebooted. But since we really didn't change anything, our computer's not going to have to be rebooted. Now we have all the basic software and drivers installed to do TCP/IP networking over a modem, but we have to actually create a dial. And you see that Rich has a couple of different dials sitting here already, but just for fun, we'll make a brand new one. And so what happens is, in the My Computer icon, we have all the basic things, and by installing the dial-up networking software, we now have this folder called Dial-Up Networking. And so I'll click in this to create essentially a new dial-up connection. And now you see it says Make New Connection. So I'll actually make a brand new connection, and it runs a little wizard to run you through this. My connection will, let's call this Internet:TCI. You just name the connections. And here you would select the modem, and it's actually automatically figured out the existing modem.
Ha ha.
Ha ha, can't put a colon in it. Oh well.
Just call it Chuck. Okay.
Okay, one of my favorite words.
And then I'll know when to delete it.
Oh, you'll know when to delete it. Okay, so now we have to actually put the telephone number in, and the telephone number would come from your internet provider. And my internet provider is Michigan State University, of course, 353-3500. Okay, so there's my phone number that I'm going to use for this. And now we're done. So now what I have is a brand new little icon called Chuck. And just for convenience, I'm going to drag that to my desktop and then leave it there. And yes, I want to create a shortcut. So now I'll close all my windows. And now I'm sort of at the end of the configuration stage. This is how I'd leave my computer when I go up and down. So now I actually want to do some networking. Okay? So I'll click on this little thing that says Do the Dialing. Okay? And so now another thing that you get from your internet provider is your account name. And you have to have your password and type that in, and that again is something that you get from your provider, and they'll tell you what password to do. So now I'm going to connect, and at this point it's going to dial the modem.
Cool.
So now what it's done is it's actually connecting and negotiating the different speeds.
Now the integrated modem on the ThinkPad is its own bizarre little chip, and sometimes it likes to warble at you in a very interesting way. I think the Audemars Society is doing research.
I've always wondered if I could pick the phone up and actually make it. Okay, so now we're connected. So now it's checking my name and password. Generally, you have to pay for these services when you have these modems, and so it demands the password. And so now we're actually logging onto the network, exchanging things, figuring out IP addresses, figuring out the gateways, many things that in a local area network environment you actually have to configure in. So now we're connected. So we're connected at 28.8, which is a very good connection now. So I'll minimize that. So now I'm on the net. This is as if I was locally connected or connected through some other form. So now I'll just go ahead and start up Netscape. Okay? And one thing that you probably won't be able to see, but you see this little modem symbol in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. And you can actually,
right, Chuck.
lower right-hand corner of the screen, thank you. And it actually shows you when data is coming back and forth. I mean, it's really cool. Oh, there's your home page.
One of the projects we work on. Yeah.
NIM Online, you do that a lot. What I want to do is I want to show you a little bit about how long it takes to pull information down over the modem. I'm going to the sports medicine thing that we originally visited earlier, Dr. Stuart Zeman, who gave me the advice on the net on my knee, and you can see the information's coming down, and it's taking a little while, and you see it's downloading and downloading. Let's go down a little bit on here. And this is one thing I didn't get to show you in the earlier segment, but what he has on his page is you actually click on the part of your body that hurts. And it was that knee that hurt for me. So what it does is actually goes and shows you. Now we'll see how long it takes over the modem compared to a high-speed connection. So here comes the data. You can see now it's downloading. There we go. Now,
Why, I think it's your anterior cruciate ligament, Chuck.
well, actually, it was my patella. It was a patellofemoral something or other.
Or maybe the medial capsular ligament meniscal. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. Actually, it was kind of fun just to look at this and look at all the things that could have been hurt inside of my knee, and I got awfully nervous.
This is a web
after
page for the hypochondriac.
It was, and but my knee has gotten much better. So basically, here we are sitting on the net. We're moving the information. It's a little slower, but we can do it from home.
We can do the
it with a
exact
portable.
same things over dial-up that we can do over a faster medium.
Exactly.
We just wait a little while longer.
Exactly. So,
Thanks, Chuck.
sure.
It seems that cyber cafes are going to be an element throughout Internet TCI. In our first episode, in his On the Road segment, Chuck went to a cyber cafe in San Diego, and in one of my visits on the road in Montreal, I went to a cyber cafe. So tonight we're inaugurating a new segment, and Chuck, why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. Right about 100 yards away from our studio is a cyber internet cafe called Emerald City Cafe. And they use the same cable modem that we use and have 10 megabit access, along with cappuccino and latte and mocha and all those other good things. So we have a new person that's going to join us on Internet TCI, and so tell us who this person is, Rich.
Well, Chuck, it's kind of a scary concept. We have a professional reporter staged over at the Emerald City Cafe, and it'll be interesting to see if they let us back on the air after this.
They probably won't.
This could be kaput.
It's the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. So Karen Straney, who works by day at Channel 10 here in Lansing, what are you doing over there?
Well, guys, I'm just catching up on what's hot and what's not around the greater East Lansing area and enjoying a very large cup of what I affectionately call the nectar of the gods. This is a double cafe mocha. This is a couple shots of espresso, a little steamed chocolate milk, whipped cream on the top. It's marvelous. And what else is marvelous? The Emerald City Cafe. This is the hot place to be on the west side of campus. The cafe just opened back in March of 1995, and already it's drawing quite a crowd. It's a great atmosphere to just come and unwind for a few, meet some friends, and again, have some of that great espresso, cappuccino, or any of their variety of gourmet coffees. The other thing that's drawing people over is that there is no other place in town where you have free access to the World Wide Web. Guys, I have commandeered a spot here at one of the computer terminals, and we're going to give you a little lesson in politics this evening. Surfing the net, we find out that many political candidates have their own home pages. You can tune in to see what your candidate is doing, what position he or she is running for, what party they're affiliated with, all kinds of things. They even have campaign information from, socialist parties, the internal workers party, people, the Green Party has candidates running for president. You
The
can find them
Libertarian
all.
Party.
You can find them all here on the net. Now, we've called up Bill Clinton, familiar face. He's got a nice colorful picture with the American flag behind him. He obviously is running for president of the United States. This is what his page looks like. If you call up Bill Clinton and presidential candidate in 1996, this is one of the pages you'll find. Included in this particular page, we'll scroll down here and give you a feel for what's on here, some biographical data. His name is
William Jefferson Clinton.
William Jefferson Clinton, beautiful. He was born in, you guys have this.
Hope, Arkansas.
Okay. They give you
A southerner, just like you, Rich.
From a town called Hope.
you've seen the ads, I guess.
Yeah,
It gives you,
I knew he's a Rhodes Scholar, that I knew.
Here's his, and he went to Oxford. We all knew that too.
Yep.
We know why. It gives you pretty much his resume. He also has included campaign finance information on this homepage in case you really need to dig deep and see what he's all about. And he's got an email address where you can contact President Clinton at the White House through the internet. You also, if you see on the bottom of the screen, you can look at all the other Democratic candidates and what positions they're running for and the Democratic ticket. And it also gives you an entire summary of the 1996 presidential campaign. Every single person that is declared for president that's running in 1996. The other interesting thing I found in here, guys, even the guys that have declared they're not running for president have a page.
Cool.
Unbelievable. Colin Powell, his name's up there. Jack Kemp, and the dates that they said, I'm not running for president, they're on there. Let's get rid of Bill here, and we'll go on to the next page. We called up our next favorite in a row. We're going to donations. I need to get to Bob Dole. Bob Dole is a Republican candidate for president. He's got a similar page. I'm just curious why his photograph is in black and white. I don't know. Maybe
Probably because he's concerned about overuse of the information highway. Takes less bits to move it down, so he's just, being conservative, not going with the color thing.
Do I sense a little, I don't know, maybe affinity for Bob Dole and his candidacy there, babe?
No, you sense a little lunacy on the part of Chuck.
Well, yeah, I'm not even sure this is the year that there's an election, so I'll...
You've been watching too much internet, TCI.
Exactly, every night.
Well, here's Bob's biographical data. We got Bob Dole. We don't know his middle name. He was born on July 22nd, 1923 in Russell, Kansas, and it talks all about his wife, and he does have one child. Here's his educational experience, again, a resume type thing. He also has input campaign finance information, and here's how you can contact him, an address and phone number and a World Wide Web address. The other cool thing about Bob Dole, if I haven't lost the page, is that you can get in to look at Bob. He actually has a page where you can look up donations and find out how you can print off a sheet on your printer at home and send him cash. It's great, and it's all here on the net.
Cool.
One of these days it'll be where you just fill in the blank here with your Visa number, and that's how you make your donation.
The technology is reaching out and touching us every single day, and we're experiencing it right here. You can call up more information here than you can sit and watch in CNN's political roundup for 24 hours straight, I'm pretty sure. Well, here to tell us a little bit more about the cafe and why we have the Cyber Cafe going on is Patrick. Patrick, why don't you come over here and take a seat next to me, babe? Patrick's surfing next door. I'm really worried what he's into. Patrick knows the ins and outs of this entire system. Patrick, give me an idea of what your role is with the Emerald City Cafe, and then what are some of the cool things we can experience coming over here?
Sure. The real role with Emerald City that I have is to let people know that it's here. Talk a little bit about what kinds of things people can come here for, to let them know they can surf the web for free, to let them know that there's staff here who can actually teach people some of the basics if
That's
they want
good
to
to
come
know.
down. All different kinds of basic computer skills you can test here if you don't have a computer, if you don't have the web, if you don't have Netscape or any of those other servers. So this is a good place to come and, as you said, get a cup of coffee or cappuccino or whatever you like and try out the web.
Chocolate,
And
definitely.
chocolate for you
Okay.
specifically. Right.
This is amazing. You have free access to the World Wide Web. You can't get that anyplace else. Is it actually working as a marketing strategy for you guys to get people to come in?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. We have all kinds of people who, there's two benefits. There's two different groups of people it's good for. People who've never tried the internet and want to try it but don't want to buy a computer or don't want to try an online service like America Online or Voyager. And It's also good for the people who like the web and they want to try and download some large items, because this system's hooked directly to the TCI MET program, which is 10 megabits per second, and it is the fastest thing that's out there right now.
That's great.
Download more information than any other local server could.
What are some of your favorite things to do here when you're just out surfing? What are some of like the cool, fun, maybe musical things or something that creates noise, some real visual things that you can find on the net?
Downloading video clips, downloading audio clips, finding out, seeing scenes from movies that haven't been released yet.
Oh, that's great.
Sure. Getting the latest on news-breaking stories. I mean, you might hear a piece of something on the news, and you can download the whole file and find out all of the details, things that things that people don't know about, that they're just finding out about.
Fantastic.
So, if you hear a rumor, it's an easy way to find out if the rumor's true.
Check it and make sure that it's right. Well, thanks very much. Are you going to stay and like maybe show me how to do a few more of these things?
Be happy to.
I need the help. That's one of the great parts about coming out to the Emerald City Cafe, is that if you are a novice, kind of like myself, all you need to do is really sit down and just play, just surf and give it a shot. And if you don't really know what you're doing, you're kind of stuck, you need some helping hands, you don't have to reach out to get Rich and Chuck to come over and help you out. There's people like Patrick, there's people sitting around the bar behind you, sitting at the cappuccino bar, that will gladly lend you a hand and let you know what you're doing wrong, or maybe click here, something, you know, just those little intricacies that you don't know. If you don't know where you're looking, they've also graciously supplied you with the Internet Yellow Pages. And guys, you know, they always tell you that you got to crawl before you walk. Well, my new adage is that if you got to crawl, why not crawl on the web? Back to you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Garrett.
The first thing I felt when I sat in my first internet cafe out in San Diego was just the sort of the joy of really good coffee and sitting on the internet. I thought, you know, here they are, they let you have your coffee right by there. They don't, you know, hopefully you won't spill it, but it's neat to be able to sit and drink coffee and just relax and surf the internet. So, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Now let's see what's happening in the news of the net. First off, Sun Microsystems has unveiled a prototype of its much ballyhooed $500 internet terminal. Now this is a device that'll have a 110 megahertz CPU, a minimal amount of memory, and a monitor of some sort. But Sun says it is going to cost more than the much touted amount of $500, without telling us how much more. Microsoft has forged some alliances. First off, they're going to help Walmart market all of its goods via the internet. Secondly, Microsoft has gotten together with MCI. MCI is going to be the primary distributor for the Microsoft network, and also is going to help promote Microsoft's web browser, the Internet Explorer. Also, Microsoft has announced that there's a version of its Explorer for the Macintosh environment. Now you can check your Visa card balance via the World Wide Web. There's a new Visa card called the Web Card. It was announced by Block Financial and issued by Columbus Bank and Trust of Georgia. You can track account activity, track your balances, and see if your payments have been made. Germany has decided to censor some more material on the internet. They're going after some neo-Nazi material. They're investigating CompuServe and a service from Germany called T-Online and some other service providers. The prosecutor wants to censor access to some neo-Nazi material being delivered out of Canada. And the prosecutor says that if the illegal material can be called up anywhere within the borders of Germany, then it is illegal and a violation of German law. That's the case because German law forbids any material that incites racial hatred. Politicians in the United States are anxious to get schools connected to the internet. In his State of the Union address, President Clinton called for connecting all of the schools in the country to the internet by the year 2000. The total cost for that might exceed $10 billion. The project will start in the state of California, and state by state politicians are doing likewise. In Illinois, for instance, Governor Edgar has called for connecting all Illinois schools with a $10 million price tag. We notice now that a lot of professional designers are moving to the web. A lot of media companies are hiring excellent designers to help with getting online presences going. New companies are forming. The design director of Esquire magazine, Roger Black, decided that there's money to be made in the web and has left Esquire to head a web publishing firm. The Discovery Channel has put up an elaborate website, and it said that it cost them $1 million to put this site together, and it's now maintained by a full-time staff of 10. So there seems to be some money to be made in the art of helping people get a presence on the World Wide Web. Chuck.
So, thanks for that, Rich. That's a really good report. Well, welcome to our net surfing segment. Tonight we're actually going to use a modem because we had the segment that had to do with the modem, and so you're going to actually see some of the things coming down over the modem, and you'll see that they run a little more slowly than some of the other things on our show. So Rich, where are we going to surf tonight?
Well, Chuck, first off, let's go to AudioNet, which is the place I was talking about that licenses the real audio technology.
Right.
And they have all kinds of interesting stuff, including listening to live radio stations over the internet. But let's surf around a little bit here, and let's see if we can find a pointer to live college basketball.
Now, while we were taping the show tonight, the Michigan State University Penn State game was going on, and our camera people and floor people were giving us updates. And how'd that turn out? How'd that turn out? Did we win? Good deal, we won.
Okay, well, good for us. Well, the link is still there to the game that took place earlier. If it was still going on, we could listen to it live over Real Audio, but we're just going to go and see what the page looks like. And a number of institutions, a number of universities have participated in this little network. And it's a way that you can just sort of plug in, and there's a schedule of all the games, and they're all put out over the AudioNet network. Let's go to the MSU Athletics homepage, which was put together by Trevor Barnes, an undergraduate at Michigan State who works on my staff. And he's divided things up here into autumn versus winter athletics. Let's look at winter.
Hockey. Hockey.
Well, I'm going to go to basketball.
Oh, okay. I was going to go get my hockey stick.
I'm glad I'm going to basketball. Now, it's a little slower than when the cable modem is working well for us, but it's not all that terribly bad. It's passable.
28.8. I mean,
Now, notice here that this screen is split. What's going on here, Chuck?
I don't know. It's using up my precious real estate on my screen, but...
It's an example of a frame, Netscape frames, and Trevor's done some nice work here. Let's click here, and we have a frame that's going to offer us sort of an index into all of the Big Ten sporting pages. So we can go to Iowa, Illinois, pick your other favorite Big Ten school.
Ohio State. Go Buckeyes.
Let's go to Ohio State.
Do they have a sports information page too?
I would assume just about every university in the country does by now. Frankly, I'm biased a little bit, but I think Trevor has made one of the best sports pages in the Big Ten. But looking at this Ohio State page, it looks pretty clean here. Now, we're not going to the athletics page, it looks like. It looks like we're going
Just
to the main page.
Ohio State page.
Okay. Let's see what their athletics page looks like.
They are very serious about athletics at Ohio State.
So you see what's happened here is the frame down at the bottom is sort of a jumping point.
Oh, and that stayed. That's from Trevor, right?
That stayed. That's our frame. Now we've gone to the Ohio State page, and let's say, well, no, we don't want Ohio State anymore. Let's go look at Iowa.
Oh, so what's happening here is you at MSU have made this little menu that stays there. How can I get away from that?
Well, other folks can have their own frames and sort of eventually take over part of the screen, but he sort of encapsulated this first web venture for us.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
We'll see a lot more about frames in future episodes of Internet TCI. But I'm afraid now, Charles, with our slow modem surfing, we're about out of time.
Okay, well, we'll see you on the net.
See you on the net.